Hi, everyone. I'm Dave.
And I'm Jeremy.
Welcome to our Tech Over Coffee podcast. And Jeremy, wow, this is an exciting day.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
get to film our podcast.
it's a big day.
It is a big day. We have some really cool topics to kind of look at and share together. We're thankful for Chipola College for sponsoring this podcast, giving us this ability to film from the studio here at the main campus in Marianna, Florida. And we're ready to get started. Jeremy, what do you have for us to kick off our podcast?
So we got a handful of topics. First off the jump, I think we're going to talk about some space stuff. You know, we're talking about Amazon and their different launch affiliations. Then we're looking at some gaming stuff. And, you know, if we're talking about rockets, we always have to talk about Elon Musk, maybe a little bit of Tesla. So where do you think we should start?
Wow, so space is that's a cool area place to start. And the thought of, wow, could Amazon and Blue Origin actually be utilizing Elon Musk's SpaceX to kind of get to space? It seems, wow, is that even, can Coke and Pepsi work together for a product? But when you look at supply chain management or just all the logistics involved in many projects, especially a big project like getting to space, it's okay to partner. You know, there's nothing wrong with everyone winning together.
And you'd think that Blue Origin, like Amazon's rocket company, would be the one that would be launching their Kuiper like satellite clusters. But actually, Amazon's decided to make a different deal with a larger company in the space called ULA. And this is a joint operation between Boeing and Lockheed Martin. They've apparently had something like 120 successful consecutive launches, 100% success rate from what they say, and it's a pretty big deal. ULA's been around for a long time. They've been doing the launches for NASA forever, basically.
Old school Lockheed Martin and Boeing.
Yeah, making big, powerful rockets, but not reusable like SpaceX, and that's SpaceX's kind of big deal, right? So Amazon's made a deal with ULA to do 9 rocket launches to put up, I'm not sure the number of satellites. I don't know if that's been decided yet, but they're going for the same, a similar kind of cluster that Starlink is doing. So they're going to have dozens or hundreds of satellites up in the air at a time in lower Earth orbits versus the standard geosynchronous orbits that ULA is actually more known for.
So many topics with this kind of point to get our conversation going. So Jeff Bezos recently has taken a step back to focus on more strategic initiatives and serving just as a chairman of now Amazon. They own Blue Origin, as you noted, Jeremy. So the thought of, wow, Blue Origin, I don't know if they have a lot of experience putting stuff into space quite yet. So they need to partner with another company, ULA.
Right.
And they're not just partnering to win some bid for asteroid mining. You know, they're actually trying to put more satellites in space, really Elon Musk-esque, right? Following his steps, almost see if we can download, Elon's strategic plan and let's replicate it. So get a competing service, I guess, for this low Earth orbit satellite service across the globe. That's exciting, and it makes you wonder, is it better to be the first to market, a late mover on that? It doesn't excite me as much thinking that Bezos is trying to do this, but maybe we'll win as consumers.
Yeah, I mean, it gives you more options, right? And that's what's kind of important. The thing is that, like, will they actually be able to compete on price and substance?
Even quality.
And quality, right, because, like, it's all a matter of how many satellites do you have in the air. And maybe it will be a good idea to have this just as a backup, because you definitely don't want just one system, and then what happens if it goes down and you have something wrong with the Amazon cloud service or something, right? I mean, it happens, and you don't want to be dependent on just this one thing. And so for government purposes, it might be why this will move forward more rapidly, because you need to have a backup just in case. And that's what Starlink's, one of their primary purposes is actually to help out for situations like that. Like, you're out on the high seas, you need a high-speed internet connection. You've got a spy plane or something like that. Something connected to ULA here, because they're actually currently in the process of launching a spy satellite for the United States. So it's similar processes.
Well, you're adding some more kind of nuggets for our discussion here.
It's all layered on here because it's like we're talking space today, right?
That's what's kicking us off. That's right. So AWS, right, Amazon's kind of storage platform, really the backbone of the cloud. Many could say AWS is a leading provider. So I didn't think of that before. That's an interesting point, Jeremy, to provide this satellite internet. It's going to help their AWS brand, the cloud services, because if there's a utility and infrastructure challenge here, throughout the U.S. or throughout the Western Hemisphere, they can kind of bypass that. So they can still provide AWS services. So for business continuity, it's a good idea. And they really it doesn't matter that Starlink's up there, with Elon, because one of those goals with his business, reading about it, providing service to those who may not have reliable internet service.
Right.
Maybe in more rural areas, for example, areas that have less resources.
Yeah.
So
places where it's infeasible to actually lay physical cable all the way to. Like if you have a cabin out in the middle of the woods in an area 1,000 miles from anywhere else, like say Alaska, the North Pole or something like that, if you've got a satellite connection, you have internet. So that's what's really transformative of this. So
it wins for the marketplace for sure. So that was a neat angle to kind of bring into our podcast. The thought of, wow, many thoughts there. Where to go next? But let's just go with the easy one, the spy satellite.
Yeah.
So is that something that we can use for our classes here?
I mean, that's something that I might have access to, but I can't tell you until it's up in the air when I have access to it.
All right.
So it's a pretty cool thing, right? It's something that's for the government, the military purposes, right? It's not everybody's going to get to use it, which is possibly why they'd go for ULA versus like SpaceX or Blue Origin or any of these other less proven companies. And especially for something that's as significant as like I believe this is going to be a geosynchronous type satellite that's new, updated, going to last for 20 plus years. It's like these things are put up and then they're immediately put into use. So I wonder what they're checking out.
Sounds fancy.
Big money for sure, and that's the stuff that keeps ULA going because they get these big government contracts and they pull in big money from that, and they only do a small number of launches too. Like they've done 120, I think, total from what their like consecutive launch numbers go. SpaceX is pulling those kind of numbers off very rapidly because they're doing multiple launches, sometimes per month, where ULA really spaces them out much further because they're much more concerned with making sure that it like goes perfectly every single time, and using the entirety of their budget too is what they're going for sure.
So it kind of seems like the tech space is designed just with how we keep trying to move the ball forward. Of having different providers, different participants involved. For example, if you look at the web space, you might have a broker such as Network Solutions, GoDaddy, and then you might use a provider like Wix. And so you actually purchase the domain name and then you can host it. So that already is in place. Why not use technology the same manner? You have a hosting company, put out satellites, you have a business continuity backup in place. Whereas Elon Musk is really going to be focused on providing, personal use for internet access, which is a very noble thing to do, and it's exciting.
Maybe this could be more business focused.
Yeah, at least on the surface.
There are definitely enterprise customers that are going to want these sort of like high speed, redundant backup systems that maybe don't need to have a massive 10,000, 40,000 satellites. Maybe they only need a couple thousand to handle their web services or other businesses' web services, and give you something that is there in case of some catastrophic failure on the ground, right? If you have a cable that's cut, you can immediately jump over to your satellite link. And if it's as fast as the other one, then there's no real interruption of service. And I think what's really kind of big with all of this is the vertical integration that these companies are really going for, right? If Amazon and Blue Origin, these companies are aiming for the same purposes. You have Starlink and SpaceX launching their satellites, their own satellites and their own internet service, where Amazon is providing web services already, but just not actual internet service. So now they're going to be providing like a whole stack where you might not have to leave the Amazon ecosystem at all. You could be using Amazon-based internet to access Amazon-based services, delivered to your home with Amazon trucks and delivery.
Yeah, I would say the vertical integration maybe, but only if I could buy a book on Amazon.
Yeah.
If I could get some food or something. Wait a minute, Amazon does that.
They kind of do all of those
Oh,
things.
wow,
Yeah,
that's complete.
that is what you call vertical integration. It's like you can like go to the same place to get all of your things, and they make all of them, or at least like have a hand in producing them or acquiring them.
These tech companies, the people behind closed doors, very similar to our discussions when we talk about planning things, right? Some of the smartest people you got to think exist. So they are making this whole thought of a new monopoly so creative and I don't know, is that good or
Well,
bad? That might be a
it's-
future discussion. It's unique. It's not the traditional monopoly.
Right, you kind of have these. It's not really a monopoly. It's like, and it's not even quite a duopoly, right? Where you've got like two in control of the majority of the situation. You've got like multiple entities that are all not colluding, but they are working together. And in these big areas, right? There's so much capital investment involved that you actually don't have other competitors because you really only have one person that's forging the way. You might have a few others that are also putting in just as much effort, which is good because that like means that there's somewhere to go. And the more money you put towards this problem, the more innovation you can create. And yeah, you kind of do have in these tech areas big like semi-monopolies being formed, but
If you own the entire vertical integration,
Yeah.
wow, I don't even know that. That's going to be brand new business text material. I don't think we've even looked at stuff before like that. It's not just you make all the cars. Well, you make everything. You know, that's going to be a different ballgame.
You've got access from like the whole way down. Is that going to be something that governments are going to be looking at, possibly breaking up or sanctioning in some ways, or
Taxing, maybe?
taxing in larger ways? That could be a solution to this, right? Because I mean, so is a monopoly so bad? And I don't know, because like there's historical precedents to a lot of this, but if you don't have a company that's trying to do bad with that monopoly's power and is actually just providing good to the customers, is that bad? Because ultimately a monopoly can provide the lowest prices ever, right? So they have access to everything. They can bring it all down to the lowest price possible, so providing that service to people can be a lot easier. And for some of these things, right, it requires so much that it can only be done by these like mega corporations.
Right,
How
so-
else do you cover the globe and satellites?
Yeah, so many neat topics here. I'm just going to keep going with this, Jeremy. So you look at
Yeah.
Walmart, they kind of framed this thought of they'll provide everything, a
Mm-hmm.
big box store. So they're right, the customers benefit. So someone could argue and say, well, those that participate in the supply chain, they may be taken advantage of. They don't have a choice to have a better voice because
True.
this is what you're providing. You don't have a question, go do something else.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's not fair to them. So maybe that could happen in this huge Amazon vertical integration that
Right.
those that would participate, and people do push back on that with Amazon, saying
Mhm.
we do stuff with them, but they're not always that nice.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an honor to be in that marketplace, but what
I've-
cost does it?
I've heard
involve?
some situations where, like, say Amazon selling motor oil, right? Amazon will just, with their large purchasing power, go buy up a bunch of motor oil from a unnamed motor oil company, right? And basically put it up right next to that company's oil for a lower price, essentially putting that company out of business with their own product on their marketplace. So Amazon siphoning away their own customers' money because they're also competing, right, in that same marketplace. And that's where things really get kind of sticky and why you have to like watch out, because when you do have these massive powers that can pull off those pretty complex deals,
Yeah, almost
they
trillion
can-
dollar companies.
yeah, they're very large, and
Yeah.
there's quite a few of them, right?
Right.
Uh,
There's more than two.
yeah, yeah, they have a good command over the marketplace. And with that command and with all of that money, they can, really decide prices and decide how much you are going to get. And that's kind of maybe a little unfair because you're not the one that's really getting that choice because you have to deal with who you're dealing with.
So back to space, that vertical integration, that was a great thought to kind of bring in there, and the thought monopolies. So, question for you, no prep. Where does those that have just announced their interest in space, where does Virgin Atlantic, where do they have a stake now? Because it seems like SpaceX just really is plowing this path. Jeff Bezos taking a step down to focus on more strategic considerations, is trying to follow and maybe diversify. I mean, where are we going? Where do you think Virgin's at in that?
Well, so I think they're really focused on, I don't know if they're really going like full rockets.
Maybe transport, just like
it's,
people?
It's like people moving,
Yeah,
right? Like
okay.
figure out how to like take things transcontinental. a lot quicker, which can be done with rockets. You get up to that like right space, you have less air resistance, you can move faster, take less fuel, be more efficient, and like get from point A to point B across the globe and move a large amount of cargo or people along the way. So that's kind of where they're going at, which is pretty cool because it's advancements in air travel, which are so huge now already, right? Like the fact that we can fly from like here to Tokyo in like a day or something like that is insane. Imagine being able to do that in 4 hours.
Yes, and then there could be these creative thoughts of maybe orbiting hotels, and the future is going to be quite bright.
Yeah.
So we had a whole list of things to talk about.
We talked about space elevators before, so it's like it's all of these things are like all kind of coalescing around the same time. People trying to figure out how to play with our like Earth's orbits and gravities and things like that. Pretty neat.
That is neat.
But yeah, our list of topics today are vast.
They are, and I don't know if we're running out of time or not. I think we're getting close, but
I don't know. We have that like internal timer that tells us exactly when to stop, but I'm just going to say ignore it. Keep going forever. This podcast will never end.
So let's bring in at least another topic. So
Yeah.
the space is exciting. Back to the space real quick. Boy,
Sure.
we can't even progress. Google, Facebook, do you see any play for them? I haven't read anything, but you have a different lens.
I don't know. Facebook, I think, is talked previously about trying to like get into the internet space because, I mean, I think Mark
So
Zuckerberg-
satellites could work for that.
Satellites, I think they talked about maybe some like, at one point they were working on like a weather balloon Wi-Fi
Oh,
mesh
yes.
network
I read
situation.
about that, yeah.
I don't know if they've moved past that or not, or if they're like really working on that still. I know that Facebook's got a lot of like spread out there, right? It's like such a massive platform. They have so many users that it's an easy way to get into basically any point in the world. And so if they're like trying to get into the internet game, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, we've said before, Facebook for a lot of people is like their
portal to the internet. Yes, yeah.
Unfortunately so. But otherwise, I think Google's such a big player. I think they've got hands in everything. So I don't know what's going on there.
Oh, right. You mentioned gaming there for
Yeah.
a second. Maybe that'll be our next topic.
Yeah,
Even though there's a lot of cool ones in between.
I've got two topics to kind of finish us off. We've got Elon Musk going on SNL.
May 8th.
Yeah, on the 8th, sometime next month. Kind of interesting. He's going to be...
It's definitely one I'm going to try to watch.
yeah, I normally don't watch SNL. I don't know if I'll catch it live, but I'll definitely like see it because I mean, you got to check that out, right? That's pretty significant too because I don't know if they've previously like had major like tech CEO or just normal CEO, right? Like, did you see the guy like running Ford going on SNL recently? No, I didn't. So
And it's interesting. We were talking and preparing for the podcast that the SEC had to review Elon's monologue
Yeah.
to make sure he didn't change the markets anyway. Imagine if he went out there live and was like, "Buy Tesla, we're the best."
yeah, right. It's like, hey, by the way, we're gonna like totally take Tesla private at 420, guys.
Right.
Like something that he previously got in trouble for. So the SEC is totally on him for this, which is interesting because normally for like the Saturday Night Live, you go up and it's something that you've prepared for, but it's still kind of, it's on the spot. You're kind of like doing things on the fly and trying to be funny. And it's something that people haven't seen yet. Where in this case, like, it's kind of messed up because he's like a publicly, he's a public figure.
Yeah.
He's a CEO of a publicly traded company. His words are more meaningful and impactful than just like an average comedian or person. So they kind of ruin the jokes. I've not looked at it, and I was kind of curious if you would or not.
Yeah, I think
you want to see it like the
No. I thought you like I wanted to watch his. Oh no, I don't care
No.
to see his monologue.
Yeah,
no.
I was curious.
Is
if
it
you
out
wanted
there?
to- yeah, it's actually out there. They released it.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, I don't care to read that at all.
Yeah, because,
No.
like, I think
thought they
they-
released it for the SEC.
Yeah, well, they
But-
gave it to the SEC.
And it
then-
leaked.
And then I think it leaked, or they
Oh,
had to,
wow.
like, publicly put it out.
Oh.
So that way it doesn't have an effect on the market. So it's like, look, he's not going to say anything about Tesla. or going to affect the stock in any way.
I do not want to see it. No, part
Yeah.
of the
It ruins the fun, right?
yeah, SNL, the monologue is just live, and you don't know where it's going to go.
Exactly. And I think we can appreciate that doing our podcast live and in charge like we do. It's not live for you, but it's definitely live for us.
That's right. So gaming.
Yes.
Yes.
So to finish us off with one of my favorite topics to ever talk about, it's games. So
Because at Chipola, we do have a gaming community
yes, we have the Chipola gaming community.
managed through a Discord channel.
Yeah, we've got a cool Discord channel. You just check us out. We've got a link we could probably put up. But you know, we're you know going strong still.
Even through the
quiet,
pandemic,
pulled back because of the
yeah.
pandemic. You know, not doing public meetings just yet, but pretty soon. So part of my interest with gaming stuff that's been going on lately has been like community ROM hacks and decompilation efforts. So you've actually got a lot of old games that are no longer really supported anymore, right? Things like on the Nintendo 64. I mean, who hasn't played Super Mario 64? You know,
Everybody.
first 3D like Mario game, hopping around, having a great time, gathering stars and saving a princess. Well, now you can do that just through your browser on a website called froggy.is.
Can we say that?
Yes, I think. Yeah, we could totally say that.
Okay.
Totally, because Nintendo hasn't taken it down yet.
Not yet.
But when they do, then we probably can't say it anymore.
Right. We
But,
can't say what? What site?
So it's froggy, froggi.es.
Right. We won't be able to say that one.
Yeah, we won't be able to say that later.
So you get access to it for free right now.
Yeah, so it's actually free.
On your
What's-
computer.
Yeah,
So
play
if
through
you're
your
like
browser.
if you're right through your browser, right, on your PC, whatever you're accessing the internet through, you need a keyboard and a mouse.
Yeah, you got to have a keyboard and a mouse. But it's all been accomplished because a while back there was people have been working really hard to figure out how to basically decompile old Nintendo games and old hardware games in general. There's a lot of effort towards emulation because old hardware dies, gets broken, and just essentially falls apart, right?
We need to recycle those maybe through Elon's recycling plant in China, which is
right.
a future topic.
We forgot to talk about
We'll
that.
get to that next week.
That's going to be a big one.
Yes.
But yeah, there should be a lot of
Recycling.
effort towards recycling, especially with electronics. And with these old systems that don't really, like, you know, they run on cartridges and things like that, like, you know, who didn't have to, like, blow some dust off of it, right? Well, these days you can just emulate it all on your computers because they're just so powerful that they're able to, like, completely trick it into thinking that it's an actual system. So people have got the source code for Super Mario 64, and they actually set it up to run natively on PC. And now from that effort, people have now made it natively run in browser. So you don't even need to like download the game or anything like that. It's just available.
So we
And
just
it's
had it on your phone here a couple
Yeah.
moments ago, but again, no keyboard, no mouse.
Yeah, but if I had a Bluetooth keyboard,
Yes.
Bluetooth mouse, just boom, ready to play like on my phone, which is wild.
So it's a good thing it's finals week. I mean, you're not saying if a class is boring, you know, that
No,
you just
no,
go to that free website, you know, and play Mario 64.
Right after you finish all of your work.
Your finals to
Yeah.
end on a positive note.
To be really happy, you turn in your paper and then open up your phone to Mario 64 and
Bluetooth keyboard.
yeah, and have a good time playing an old classic in a new way that you've never done before.
Wow, what a great ending to our podcast.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
All right.
Always fun. Bye bye.